All right, what is going on, everyone? Happy Turkey Day. Welcome, everyone, to both the stream and the show on YouTube. It is Ask the King, episode 79. Yes, I almost said episode 80. It's episode 79, the 79th episode of Ask the King. I've been running this show. Crap, I'm trying to remember actually when I started Ask the King. I can't even remember. I want to say like 2011 maybe. So a show that's been running upwards of 8 years and 80 episodes, right? Pretty awesome. Next couple of years, I might hit episode 100. Holy shit. But anyway, thank you guys for being here. It is Turkey Day, also known as Thanksgiving here in the United States. It is a national holiday where we give thanks for absolutely everything. It's a day of reflection. It's a day to spend time with family and friends, and it's a day to eat a lot of freaking food. Like, we really need an excuse to eat a lot more food here in the United States, right? So, today, I'm answering your questions from the forums, from Twitter, and we're going to take some live questions from the stream chat. First of all, big shout out to anyone who's actually live here on the stream today, because I know many of you are celebrating with your family and friends, and it's awesome that you take time away from that to hang out with me for a few hours. Thanks very much for that. For those of you who are watching on demand on YouTube, welcome as well. I know many of you probably were too busy to join me today, and now you're watching on demand later on my vlogging channel, The King of Hate Vlogs, so 2 thumbs up for that as well. And welcome. Now, FYI, the way that this works, okay, I take questions from my forums, thekingofhate.com, that people have been posting up for the past 2 months. And whenever I do this show, basically the forum thread for the next show is already live. The next Ask the King will be in late January. I believe it's going to be like January 30th, 2020. So, post up your questions. You can head to my forums right now, thekingofhate.com. Go to the forums, go to the Ask the King section. The thread is already there to post up your questions for the next time around, okay? I also accept questions on my Twitter the day of. So this afternoon for about 45 minutes, I took questions on my Twitter, @TheyCallMeDSP, and I chose a few, just a small handful. Also, live on the stream, obviously, I accept questions, okay? So, all those great things, all those great methods, and the show's better with the more questions I get, so please, by all means, if you like the show today, post up your questions for the next show for a chance to get answered, okay? I'll be doing live shout-outs to people who contribute. I'll be updating the leaderboard live, although I would ask the following. If you have a question in particular that you want to ask and get answered on the show, and you want to contribute to make sure that I answer it, great, but try to save that for the final segment, only because I've got about 15, 20 questions to get through already. I don't want to interrupt these questions with more questions, then we'll never get to the end of the show. If you save it for the last segment, that'll make it make more sense, okay? So before we get started, Alfred Aponte actually tipped me $1 and said, I hope you're a good man. Thanks for always interacting with us and helping us with positive vibes. Happy eating turkey. Yes, many people today will be eating turkey. And so one of the things that I will do and get out of the way before we get to the questions is a couple things regarding Thanksgiving. First thing, everyone's going to ask me, what am I eating today? Okay? Well, I'm eating a combination of food. I'm eating a combination of stuff that my parents actually bought for us and sent to us, and stuff that we bought and are making on our own. So my parents bought us some stuff. My mom loves watching the home shopping networks and stuff on television, and she saw a big deal, so she bought us this Thanksgiving package that included a big roasted turkey breast that's smoked and coated with this brown sugar honey glaze, okay? And what you do is you bake it in your oven, and it heats it up. It's already pre-cooked, but you bake it to make it warm, and then you cut it into slices, and you pour gravy and stuff on it. So we've got that. It's like 5 pounds, crazy amount of turkey. It also came with some sides. I think it's like a mac and cheese side, and also like some kind of a sweet potato casserole side or something like that. So we're going to be eating that, but we bought our own stuff to have with that as well. So we're going to be having just some basic stovetop stuffing. We don't have time to make complicated stuffing or anything like that. So just quick stovetop stuffing. Some cranberry sauce that we bought, canned cranberry sauce, nothing too complicated there. Kat is going to make her own homemade mashed potatoes, which is good. I haven't had homemade mashed potatoes in years, so that'll be great. Some rolls of butter, and pumpkin pie for dessert. So a crazy amount of food today. However, we're going to be saving this food and having lots of leftovers. We already have at least one major meal planned that's just leftovers, and I'm sure we're going to be having many more moving forward that are leftovers of this. So good stuff. A big hearty feast for Thanksgiving for us, and with lots of leftovers and everything, for future meals, which is pretty great. So that's what we're eating. Now, what am I thankful for? I mean, holy crap, do I have a ton of things to be thankful for. I'm thankful for my loving family, my beautiful, supportive wife, Kat, my pet, Jasper, who you guys got introduced to this year. who's just so much, bro, so much joy and fun to our lives. I'm amazingly grateful that I was able to, over the last couple of years, that have been a big struggle, keep this house, keep things going around here. You know, I've said this many times, guys. The only reason I'm still here and I keep going is because of you. So, you know, I'm incredibly grateful for you guys, you the viewers, who you keep coming back, you keep hanging out with me. My streams now, in my opinion, are at an all-time high. I'm having so much fun playing so many games, a variety of games, and just having a general good time. I mean, in 1 week, I can play a turn-based RPG style game like Pokemon, an action-based first-person shooter like Modern Warfare, you know, a kind of an action-adventure game like Star Wars, finish up a game that you can't even categorize like Death Stranding. I'm playing Minecraft, you know, I'm doing more variety of stuff coming up this week. Street Fighter is coming up later this week. And every stream is unique and fun and different, but so much fun. That's what I mean. Like, it's not like, when I used to do just YouTube, I would feel a lot of the times like, man, I'm in a big rush to finish this project or this game because I have to move on to the next right away. I don't have those pressures anymore. I just come to stream. I just have a relaxed and good time with all of you. And you guys support that. You know, and some people would say, oh, you know, Phil doesn't do it like he used to. But then people are like, no, we like the new Phil better. We like the Phil who is more about hanging out with us and having a good time than being hyper-focused on this gameplay and doing improv comedy during the games and stuff. All that kind of become outdated. It's all gone by the wayside so that I could just have more meaningful interactions and streams with you guys. And I'm grateful that you guys allow me to do that for a living. It's so amazing. And being quite upfront and frank and honest with all of you, some of the hurdles that I've had over the past few years with all kinds of stuff, taxes and other things that have come up out of nowhere, and you guys have always been supportive and been there for me and supported me. I'm so grateful. Again, I would not be here. I would not be in this house. I would not be on camera right now on stream if it weren't for you. So thank you guys so very much for that. And another thing that I want to say as well, thank you to those who stick in there with me despite all the fucking nasty stuff that happens to us, the trolling, the nonsense that comes in and tries to derail my streams and my content, the outside noise, right? We've done a really good job these past couple of years of not paying any attention to the outside noise that tries to disrupt everything. And they try hard. Don't get me wrong, they try really hard. But I am thankful that we have a dedicated viewer base who now you guys come by no matter what the new bullshit drama is that someone else fabricated or made up out there, and you just come and hang out with me regardless, and you pay no attention to the outside bullshit white noise, and instead we just have fun on stream every day. I'm so grateful for that. So thank you for the support, for the amazing interactivity and the fun streams, for everything. All right, guys? Thank you so very much. I'm so grateful for that. All right. It looks like Vulcan did a 95-bit cheer. He says, ever thought about, doing a fundraiser? Well, I've thought about doing fundraisers over the years. We're not going to get derailed. I know why you're asking that. We're not going to get derailed about that on the stream today. I tried to do fundraisers, and sadly, if I tried to do a fundraiser, the same thing would probably happen where people would be assholes to me and try to screw the whole thing up, and I'm not going to mess around with that, okay? So there you go. Let's now get to the questions, all right? Let's get to the fun questions on the stream, okay? All right. Let's do this. So, starting off, the questions from the forums. These are people who posted up on thekingofhate.com. Dreamcast has turned 20 years old back on September 9th of this year. Do you feel old yet? And thoughts on the system? That question's from Kazlab802. Well, the Dreamcast was one of my favorite consoles of all time. It actually was ahead of its time in a lot of ways, I believe. They tried to do a lot with this console. First of all, the graphics of the Dreamcast at launch, which was the late 90s, early 2000s, depending on what region you were in, were quite good to the point where they were almost arcade perfect. That was probably the first console ever that I could say I could go to a video arcade and play a game and then come home and play the console version of it and they're equivalent. Games like Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2, Capcom vs. SNK 1 and 2, Street Fighter 3, as well as arcade-style games like Power Stone, Crazy Taxi. Those games were almost identical to the arcade. And it really made it feel like you were having an experience at home. You didn't know you need to go to the video arcade anymore. Now, I'll be honest, it actually was one of the reasons that started leading to the decline of arcades. And that kind of hurts me because I grew up in video arcades in the 90s. That was like a big part of my youth. Going to the arcade, having that social interaction with people there, playing games in person against people, right? It wasn't about the impersonal online gameplay. There really was no online play at that point yet. And so in a lot of ways, the Dreamcast was pretty much a nail in the coffin when it came to console game, or excuse me, arcade games. At the same time, it really was just an amazing, groundbreaking achievement that you could play that quality of game at home. Dreamcast also tried to do some weird things with the controller that were different. They had actually a memory card that had a screen on it that actually, it was like a Tamagotchi. So it was like a virtual pet, which was really hot during the 90s. So they tried to do like a tie-in with that as well. I remember it had the egg. It was like the Chow from Sonic, what was that game? Sonic Adventure was like a growing on your memory card and stuff. It was really weird what they did with that. But it was really cool. Sadly, the Dreamcast was a victim of timing. And what I mean by that is at the time the Dreamcast released was the prominence of the internet and sadly piracy on the internet. Things like, what was it? Oh my God, Napster and Kazaa and LimeWire. These programs were all the rage in the early 2000s, and it allowed people to easily file share stolen content all over the internet with zero repercussions. And the Dreamcast basically got kind of cracked, and all the games for the Dreamcast were just posted all over the internet. So within a year of the console being out, you could get the whole library of games for free online and never spend any money on the console ever. And that's kind of what happened with it, was that the whole thing kind of fell apart within a year because no one was spending money on the console. So it was a huge flop for Sega, not because the technology wasn't great, not because they didn't have a great games lineup, but because everyone stole everything. So the whole thing flopped. So, you know, it is what it is. I loved the Dreamcast. I owned, if I remember correctly, 4. I had a launch Dreamcast that was a Asian Dreamcast. I think it was from like Japan or something like that, because I wanted to play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 right away at launch, and that was the only way you could play it at home at launch. Then I got an American Dreamcast later. Then later on, I bought 2 more because the Dreamcast was the console you wanted to have in tournaments for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Street Fighter 3 and stuff like that. So you needed to own a ton of these things if you wanted to run tournaments, and I used to have people come over to my house and play on multiple Dreamcasts at once. It was pretty damn crazy, and to this day, if you remember some of my early YouTube videos where I was back in Connecticut, I had people playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the Dreamcast, because that was still the best version, and we were still playing on that version after years and years. Pretty crazy. But the Dreamcast was an awesome console. It's a shame that it kind of failed and died the way that it did. It definitely deserved more credit and a longer run. Really, the only thing that kept it alive was that people wanted to use it for fighting game tournaments for a long time. Okay. Second question today is, hello, Phil. When it's winter, do you like wearing sweaters? I love a snuggly hoodie in the cool months, but you seem to always wear t-shirts. That's from Blue Eyes White Dragon. I'll just say this, what you guys see me wearing on streams is not representative of what I wear off stream. I'm just being honest here. You guys see me wear a t-shirt like this. This is what I wear in my office on the stream. Once the streams are done, I usually put on other clothing. The rest of the house usually is not as warm as the office. Like I said, the office, right now the reason it looks so bright in my office is because the sun is beating on the front wall of my house, warming up my office artificially. And so the office typically, I would say, is about 10 to 15 degrees warmer than the rest of the house. The rest of the house, we have heat running because it's so cold right now. But this office is, like, super warm. So when I'm in here, typically I'm not wearing the same, clothes that I would wear the rest of the house. Sometimes when I'm in the rest of the house, I'll wear a heavier shirt, a long sleeve shirt. When I go out, it's too cold out there to wear t-shirts. So I actually have sweaters, nothing that I bought recently, by the way. I have sweaters that I bought, back when I lived in Connecticut that I still wear. When I go out. And I also have a few pullovers that I wear when I go out. When Kat and I go out, now, I don't usually wear like a coat unless it gets really cold. I just wear like a sweater or a pullover when we go out. Thing is, you guys have never really seen me like that. Unless you watch my really early days of YouTube, when I would come home from my office job and be wearing that for a vlog or whatever. You guys have probably never seen me in that kind of attire. Boy, and that was a lifetime ago, because if you watch those videos, you're like, oh my God, look at Phil. He was like so much heavier back then. Yeah, I was like 40 pounds heavier back then. My face is all bloated, my body, I'm like, I don't look anything like that anymore. But yeah, what you see me wear on the streams is not representative of what I wear off the streams. It's just because I'm in here doing work is different, I've also noticed this. When you talk all day, your body heats up. I've noticed that like I'd be cold and all of a sudden I'll be in here playing games, talking with you guys, and my body heat naturally rises while I'm in here for some reason. And then if I'm just like in the house relaxing, my body heat goes down. So that's another thing. Like, you'll be wearing heavy sweaters and stuff when you're talking and moving constantly. You're already hot. You've already got your metabolism running, you know? So, okay. BlackSpawn89 asked the following question. He says, I noticed that you look at reviews to get a gauge and understand the flaws and bright spots of a new game these days. Seeing that the game length, frame rate, story, potential bugs, etc., do you feel this endangers your true experience of a first playthrough? I say this because I feel reading reviews would hammer in my head preconceived strengths and weaknesses of said game that I would be unable to disengage from when playing the aforementioned title. Do you feel it's best to read these reviews and take their game scores and articles seriously, or if you're interested in a game due to trust in developers and series or whatever reason to dive in headfirst with no knowledge whatsoever? It's a double-edged sword. Because if you go in with no knowledge whatsoever, then you chance spending money on a game that you hate. And let's face it, games aren't cheap. You know, average game today is around $60 United States denomination. If you get a more discounted game like an indie game or a shorter game, maybe you get them $30. But that's a lot of money to invest in a game that you may never play again. You know what I mean? And in the modern day, a lot of games that get a lot of hype, and normally, you know, in the past, I would say, oh, a AAA release, hyped. A game publisher like Activision or EA or Blizzard, you would think those games are going to be AAA greatness. And then in the last few years, how many games have we seen like Fallout 76 or Anthem that are just not good, you know? And they're hyped, and they come out and you're like, man, imagine if you dropped full dollar on those games at launch just to play a really underwhelming game and it was a waste of time. So, the truth of the matter is, I think it's a different time. It's a different era right now. For me personally, I don't like to be spoiled on games. I do like to go into a game completely cold turkey, not knowing much or anything about it, and playing a game at face value for myself, so that way I don't feel like I'm spoiled and I can give you my honest take on a game without any kind of outside influence. However, even I am finding this very difficult in the modern era because, as I told you guys, financially, it's not like it used to be. I have to pick and choose what games I'm going to invest in for my streams. And I can't just drop $60 on 5-6 games a month just in the hope that some of them are good. Like, I have to pick and choose maybe 2-3 major games a month that are good so that I know that when I stream them, you guys are going to enjoy them and we're going to get longevity and we're going to get content out of it. It's not like it used to be where I could buy a game and, I hate it, and drop it and never play it again. I have to make sure that my money is wisely spent. So it's tough because I'll give you an example recently. Death Stranding. This was a game that no one knew what the hell this game was going to be. And finally, when the reviews came out, even I couldn't resist reading reviews for it because I was so interested in what the hell is this game really, that I wanted to know before I played it. So in that case, yeah, I kind of gave myself a preconceived notion of what the game was going to be because I read all these reviews. Although I'll be honest, I didn't agree with a lot of the reviews. I think a lot of the reviews were super harsh, and then a lot of the reviews were super kind of ass-kissy, and I'm kind of in the middle, where I kind of I ride the fence on this one because I think there were things about the game I liked, things I didn't. So, it's very tough. It's very tough. Back in the day, when I was the big shot YouTuber, I was the guy who, Phil's the guy who plays the games on release day earlier than everyone, finishes them quickly, gets a review out right away, so we could trust Phil to be the authority on if a game's good or not. It didn't matter if I rushed and played every single game and bought every single game, because I could afford it. I can't do that anymore. If things could be like they were back in the day, okay, really, if I could be like that, I wish I could. But it's not like that anymore, you know? I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I'm a full-time streamer. I have to make sure I'm doing stuff on streams that you guys like and we both like so that it's fun content. I can't afford to buy all the games. So in the modern era, Black Spawn, I feel that these reviews may be helpful, but at the very same time, you have to understand that these reviews are not the end-all, be-all of anything, and you have to also understand that a lot of these people who are trusted reviewers sadly aren't very professional. You know, they're rushing through games. They've got deadlines. They need to get their review out in time. A lot of people, when you read their Death Stranding review, you realize they didn't finish the game. They basically got like 3/4 through the game and stopped playing. A lot of people complain, you get to the mountains and the mountains are boring. And they never talk about the final 8 hours of the game where it's nothing like that. It's so different. And you got fun stuff happening in the final hours of the game and the big story arc at the end. You could tell they quit. But they have to rush to get their reviews out for a date, while the average gamer doesn't give a shit about rushing to finish their playthrough. So a lot of the times these reviews aren't necessarily the most trustworthy. I've always said that I feel like a content creator who doesn't have a pressure, doesn't have a deadline, and is going to play a game at their own pace is going to give you a much more adjusted review score, or just a review in general. Forget score, just a much more adjusted review to reality of what you're going to like or not like about a game than someone who's a professional journalist who had to rush to get the fucking review out. So what I would say is you can get a good amount of information out of these reviews, but don't take them as the end-all be-all authority on a game. Understand that these people are basically doing it from their own perspective, and it's hilarious. I still see journalists say this to this day. Oh, well, you know, game reviews are subjective, so there's no way that my review could be considered invalid. So there's nothing objective about the game. You know, length of the game, how the game actually controls or plays, graphics, you know what I mean? Like fun factor. And yeah, fun factor is a subjective thing, but still you can say how much there is to do in a game could add to the, you know, there's objective things you can measure in a game review, but these professional journalists say, oh, well, it's subjective, so I can just say whatever I want and give it whatever score I want. I still don't understand that. Like, you get paid for a job, you got to fucking do it right. You can't just say, oh, it's subjective, so I can just say or do whatever I want, right? It's like, get the fuck out of here. But anyway, the bottom line is I do feel that these reviews can be used to help formulate your opinion, but they should not be the end-all be-all of what you think about a game, you know? But you're right. You chance reading these reviews, getting giant spoilers, and now you've kind of ruined a major part of the game for yourself. So again, it's a double-edged sword. Either you take the jump and you spend the money and go cold turkey into a game and you might hate, or you read reviews, but now you chance spoiling, right? So it's tough. For me, it's kind of a mixed bag. I usually don't read reviews that much, but in general now what I get is a kind of a general vibe off of social media. Like, I'll see people talking about a new release in general terms, and it allows me to at least understand certain things about a game. Perfect example about this. I have not played Shenmue 3 yet, but just looking at what people said on social media, they're like, it's basically Shenmue 2. It's very similar to Shenmue 2. They didn't really improve it that much. They wanted it to be an homage to those who played the first two games and not really modernize it that much. So if you like the first two games, you'll love it. But if you're a newcomer coming into the series, you're probably not going to like it. And that's what I've heard. I didn't read any official reviews. That's what people said on social media about it. And I could kind of get a general vibe about a game based off of that. It's not too much of a spoiler. I have no idea what the game's about, what the plot is, but at least I know what what to expect when I play it, right? So I guess we'll see when we start playing it on Sunday. But that's kind of how I approach it. Black Spawn. And yeah, you're right. It is different. It's very different from how things used to be, but I think that we have to embrace change over time and accept that things aren't always the same as they used to be, you know? Okay, next question is from the Emperor. And he says, my question has to do with the presence of dark, serious, and real-life issues in video games, especially war games. What I mean is the inclusion of dark, heavy, and sometimes depressing subjects in video games. Stuff White Phosphorus scene in the Spec Ops The Line and the No Russian scene in Modern Warfare 2 spring to mind. There can sometimes be a controversial issue with the mainstream media often criticizing game devs and writers for the inclusion of such scenes. I believe scenes like these have a place in video games under the condition that it carries the story to an important and meaningful place, so what are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I understand that when you get a scene like that it could be shocking and it could be like, oh my god, I can't believe they put that in the game. It could not only be offensive, but it could be like horrendously, it could shock you, it could hurt you. You know, just recently, the Modern Warfare campaign this year had scenes of children being abused and seeing their parents murdered in front of them and then having to kill people, right? Children picking up guns and killing people with guns. That's fucked up. It also happens. It actually is realistic and happens in a lot of parts of the world. And if anything, what I would say is the campaign of Modern Warfare kind of reminded me of how lucky we are to live in the world that we live in the United States and to be protected from having to see those kind of horrors on a daily basis, because we don't have that kind of shit that happens that much. You know, you don't have children people's parents being murdered in front of them and having to become killers themselves and stuff. It's pretty fucked up. Not to say we don't have fucked up stuff that happens in our country. We do. But you see what I'm saying? Like, there's other countries where that's like stuff that happens. There's chaotic war zones where you live. In Modern Warfare, they're trying to tell the story of people and give them motivation for who they became later on in their lives. So you understand from a frame of reference who they are. And it makes sense. It's still shocking as shit to have to play through that, but it makes sense. So really, it's really about the person themselves and about what kind of art you're interested in, because games are a work of art. I think we can all agree now. Games are art. It's not just a game anymore. Now, it could be considered a work of art. And if you're trying to portray a certain story, a certain overtone, a certain sentiment in a story, and you need to show it through shocking terms, then I think that the artist who designed that should be able to. But it's going to be up to you to determine whether or not that's something you're interested in playing through a game. You see what I mean? I'm perfectly okay with games doing it as long as it's not done solely for shock value. Okay? If there's a game and there's just horrendously disgusting shit happening in it constantly for shock value, then I don't agree with that. Same thing with gratuitous sex and stuff. Remember, years ago, there used to be games that would have sex scenes in them just for the sake of shock value. God of War was one of these franchises. Every God of War game, there had to be nudity and a gratuitous sex scene. Why? Did it add anything to the game? No. Did people buy the game for it? I don't know. I certainly didn't. But now with the recent God of War reboot, they completely redeveloped the franchise from the ground up, and they took all that crap out and made it a more serious game. And in my opinion, that game, the God of War reboot from last year, is much better than the original God of War games. So, if you're pushing the boundaries of what you can do in a game for a good reason, for artistic development, to tell a story, that's different. If you're doing it for shock value, or we get teenagers to buy our game for a sex scene or because there's gore and shit, no, I don't agree with that whatsoever, and I think that is stupid and immature. And yeah, there was times back then, back in the 90s and 2000s, where that was prominent. I think we've moved past that. As a culture, we're more conscious of what's really going on in the world, and as a culture, we've kind of moved past that kind of sentiment. So I think that, quite frankly, it's not warranted. You know what I mean? When I was playing the Modern Warfare campaign, I compared it to playing, did you guys ever see the movie Blood Diamond? Blood Diamond is a movie that is fucked up beyond recognition. There's really fucked up stuff in that movie. And it actually, I don't want to say it scarred me, but it made me, feel and think in ways that I didn't know a movie could. When I first saw that movie, I was like, oh my fucking God, man. This is a fucked movie. But at the same time, that's an artistic movie that will stay with me for the rest of my life. So that's what I mean. If you can get that out of a game, that's pretty amazing, because a lot of people just still see games as not as a work of art, but it's just something for kids, kill some time, occupy the kids so I could go do my real life adult stuff, right? Hate to tell those people, games now make more money with adults than with kids. So, I think that there's definitely more room for this kind of more mature content and this kind of artistic vision, more serious, darker overtones in games than ever before. Okay, continuing on. From Kalena. Kalena asked the following: Phil, I really like your commentary on many video games. You give many creative comments on the various aspects of a particular game. My question for you is, would you ever consider commentating over movies? You could hold polls on the kingofhate.com forums, determining which movies people would want to hear you commentate over the most. You could then record your commentary on whichever movie wins the poll. Then you could render the commentary as an audio-only MP3 file and sell it on a new website. Think about the way you sell your content via Teespring. The website does not have to be overly sophisticated. All you need is a website that allows you to upload MP3 files and receive direct payments from those who purchase them. This could lead to a lucrative business that would provide extra income. What you're describing, Kalena, is exactly what the guys at RiffTrax do. So for those who don't know, never heard of it, RiffTrax is a group of guys who used to make a series called Mystery Science Theater 3000. If you don't know what that is, it was a bunch of puppets who would talk and commentate over old school, really cheesy movies and give funny commentary to them. It became virally popular. Then it became mainstream popular. And the series has been rebooted multiple times. There's been movies, all kinds of stuff. Now, these guys wanted to do the same exact thing, but for new movies. You can't do that. New movies, they're copywritten, they're protected, trademark. You can't do commentary over a new movie and show the movie. So what these guys started doing was watching new movies, but doing commentary tracks over them live. So they would watch the movie and record with a microphone commentary over it, jokes and everything, just like they would do with the old school movies. And they would take the audio only, put it on their website, and sell it as a subscription-based service, or I believe you could buy each one individually. And then you would say, okay, you're going to watch The Avengers? Great. Here's our riff tracks of The Avengers. Press play at this moment when the movie's going, and you'll hear our commentary over the movie. And it's kind of like watching Mystery Science Theater 3000 only with a newer movie, okay? These guys make a living doing this. They make a lot of money doing it. So good stuff, right? It's a good idea. But I'll be honest, a couple things. First of all, I'm a live streamer. I am here 6 days a week full time. Maybe this week's the exception because it's Thanksgiving. But I'm here 6 days a week full time streaming for you guys, right? You guys have expressed over the years that even though I've done other things like DSP Tries It and other things, really it's the gameplay streams that are the things that drive the force behind you guys coming and hanging out with me. This is what you want to see the most of. You want to see me play more games, have more chill streams. That's what you want. Is there a fringe desire among my viewer base of doing other kind of diversified stuff? Yes. And in the past, when I used to make tons of money on YouTube, I did diversify my content. I used to do reviews. I used to do Ask the King, not Ask the King, DSP Tries It, where I tried different kinds of food and products and stuff. You know, over the years, I edited series and things. I did all this stuff. And it all had a place at one point. I kind of gave up on a lot of that stuff when I became a full-time streamer 2.5 years ago because you guys just expressed more streams, and that's what I catered towards. The thing about what you're suggesting is that this is number one would be something completely outside of my comfort zone. You're talking watching like a 2-hour movie and doing constant commentary over the movie. I don't know how that would work. I'm just being honest. I don't know how that would work. Could I maybe for a few minutes of a movie or highlights of a movie do funny commentary? Maybe. Could I do it for an entire 2 hours? I don't know. I might, that's a tough undertaking. Especially if it's a movie I've never seen before. You know, that'd be even tougher. It's just one thing if it's a movie that's like, oh, this is a fan favorite that I know everything about this movie. Like, if I'm watching the Ghostbusters movie, I could probably do a commentary over because I know the movie from start to finish, and I could do all kinds of, stuff on it. But a movie I've never seen before would probably be a lot tougher. In addition, that's a lot of time investment, Oh, today Phil's not going to stream because he's watching a movie and doing commentary over the movie. You see what I mean? What a lot of people don't realize is when they ask me to do all these things outside of the streams is where's the time come? I have 6 days a week I'm here all day long streaming with a couple hours outside to spend with my wife. That's it. That's my day. And then 1 day a week I get to spend with my wife not streaming. So unless I clone myself, I don't know when I would have time to do these outside projects. I understand this is something interesting that you're suggesting, but I don't think it's viable. Maybe a few years down the line, if I didn't have to work 6 days a week full time the way I do right now to make ends meet, and I had more free time to do this kind of stuff, sure. Or, if you're thinking about old school Phil, who back in Connecticut had a completely different life, was a bachelor, and just sat around all day recording gameplay videos, and he could take a couple hours a day off to do commentary over a movie, that's different. Today is not the same as it was back then. I already worked my butt off, and it is what it is, but that's just my reality. So I like the suggestion. It's definitely something interesting. But number one, it would be kind of outside of my comfort zone to be doing commentary over something for 2 hours without any activity with the viewers or, playing a game. And number two, I don't have the time to do anything like that. So I would say is, although it's an interesting idea, I definitely think that there's already people who have a market for that. You know what I mean? Rift Tracks kind of cornered the market for that. How many people are going to want to hear me do that kind of stuff? Not many, I don't think. So, thank you for the suggestion. A few things. Mr. Papa Vera cheered. He says, do you know Kat's earliest gaming experiences, like what console she started with and how old she started? I know she had some old, like she had SNES, and she played like the Super Nintendo games and stuff like that. And she actually told me that it was Super Mario World was one of the games that she played when she was younger. And also Donkey Kong Country. The Donkey Kong Country series are some of the ones that she played when she was younger. But I don't really know like the super details past that. So, thank you for the cheer. Fluffy Cows for you gifted a sub to Moronic Frog. Congrats, Moronic Frog. Thank you, Fluffy Cows for you. And Tana Mounter did a 500-bit cheer to become today's top cheerer of the day. Thank you, Tana Mounter, for that big cheer. Let's get you up on the leaderboard, and happy Thanksgiving to you. Very nice. Okay. So far, we're a little over half an hour, and we can keep going here on this part. Let's continue on with some more questions, shall we? All right. So, from Cisco Certified, he asked the following. Since you say that you want new fighting games that play and feel more like older fighting games, why aren't you playing Samurai Showdown or Fighting EX Layer? Both games certainly meet the criteria. Okay. First of all, what is he talking about? Well, as you guys know, if you followed me for a long time, maybe you haven't, I used to play Street Fighter competitively, but only the classic Street Fighters, like Street Fighter 2 series. Even though I've played Street Fighter 3, Marvel vs. Capcom series at a higher level, I was never like upper echelon tournament good at those games. I was really good at the Street Fighter 2 series though. And in the modern era, a lot of people ask me, why don't you like Street Fighter 5? Why don't you play more fighting games? And my answer is always the same. The games have been too dumbed down for modern audiences. They're not fun competitively. They don't have a high skill level of execution. They really don't even have a lot of the fundamentals that you needed to be good at fighting games back in the day. And because of that, I don't like them. I think that they're too dumbed down stupid, and they just, a lot of repetition, a lot of the same guessing work or pattern play, and not a lot of smart, intelligent play. And I don't have fun playing them because of that. Now, a lot of people don't know what it was like to play the old fighting games because they didn't play them. They've only played Street Fighter 4 and 5 and the modern Tekkens and Dragon Ball Fighters, so they don't even know. They don't even know what I'm talking about, and they don't even know, they don't even have a frame of reference to understand what I'm saying. And I get that, okay? I totally get that, and that's okay, because not everyone would have grown up in the 90s and played the games that I play. But for someone like me who's been around the block, I don't really enjoy playing modern fighters because they don't feel like real fighting games to me at all. So recently there's been a couple games that have come out that people were like, oh, they're more old school, right? Well, first of all, Fighting EX Layer, I played it. This is a game that was made by the makers of the original Street Fighter EX series back in the day, which was a games franchise made by a company named Eureka. And this company took the licensing of Street Fighter and put Street Fighter characters into a game that they created that kind of played like a hybrid of Street Fighter and a totally new engine, okay? So it had a combination of their own unique characters plus Street Fighter characters. And not to say that the games were bad, but I say as the series progressed, it got more and more convoluted with gimmicks like custom combos and super cancels. And the games, quite frankly, were never very balanced well. So you always had like 2 or 3 characters that were like way overpowered and just dominated the whole game, while other characters were just kind of okay. The games were very fun to play, but they weren't always held very high regard in competitive circles. So they came out with this game, Fighting EX Layer, last year, and I played it. And I thought it was alright until I realized the entire game was broken. The reason I say that, they added in a new element. I forget what they called them, where they're grooves or isms or whatever. But essentially you could pick a custom loadout of abilities for each character that would make them ridiculous, like super armor. So now they have moves that are not, they blow through everything because you can't stop them because this character has super armor. You can't interrupt their moves. Crazy damage combo abilities, speed ups. Basically, it broke the game. It made it like it was certain characters just completely unmanageable to even try to beat them. Now, the other thing you got to factor in is online play. All right, you're trying to play this game online. Already there's some lag element to it. Oh, by the way, the character now is super armor and you can't interrupt their attacks. The fuck do I do now? Right? So it ended up being ridiculously unbalanced, and I didn't like it because of that. The core gameplay elements were very old school Street Fighter, I agree with you. But these grooves or isms or whatever the hell they called them, because I can't remember, broke the game and made the game not fun to play. After like a few sessions, I just didn't want to play it anymore because it was not fun. As for Samurai Showdown, quite frankly, I'll be honest with you. Samurai Showdown was kind of like a franchise that, back in the day, in the 90s, it had shock factor popularity. What I mean by that is that was the era. You had Street Fighter, you had Mortal Kombat, you had Killer Instinct, you had spin-offs like Primal Rage and stuff like that. Then you had the King of Fighters series, a.k.a. Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting characters put together from 2 fighting franchises to make a King of Fighters fighting game series. That was the SNK Fighters. Well, SNK decided they wanted to go more extreme because they saw games like Mortal Kombat getting very popular because of the gore that was in it. So they made Samurai Showdown. This was a game where everyone has swords and weapons, and when you hit someone, blood squirts out of their body. And if you hit them the right way, it's a fatality move where their body slashes in half and blood's going all over the screen. That was really the gimmick of Samurai Showdown. As the series progressed further on, they added new gameplay mechanics and things that made the game more competitive. But essentially, the game was a very basic, slow-moving game for gore factor, okay? Honestly, Samurai Showdown, in my opinion, was never a great competitive game. I never felt it was. I thought the graphics were really good for the time. The 2D art was really nicely animated, looked like anime characters. But I never really liked the gameplay mechanics of the game. I thought that it was kind of unbalanced and really just slow moving for a fighting game because you want, oh, look, I uppercut you with my katana and now blood squirts out of your body as your body chops in half in midair. Big deal. I never really liked Samurai Showdown that much. And so when they announced the new Samurai Showdown, I was kind of skeptical. I thought, all right, maybe I'll check it out, maybe I won't. When the game released, like, there was no hype for it at all. It released, I believe it released in, like, June, and almost no one talked about it. At that time, there were other games coming out, like Crash Team Racing and Judgment, that people basically told me that, oh, Super Mario Maker 2 as well. And people told me, oh, this is really what we want to see you play. So that's what I focused on at the time. And then it was like sometime in July, people were like, why didn't you play Samurai Showdown? I was like, Samurai Showdown came out? I didn't even know that the game had been released. And quite frankly, I've heard no hype, nothing about that at all, about the game since then. So to me, like, I guess it's a dead franchise. Now, again, I'm not in the FGC, the fighting game community. Maybe I'm not in the right loops to be hearing about said games, but I haven't heard much or anything about the game, so I just didn't give it a shot. Plus, like I said, I didn't really like the classic Samurai Showdown games to begin with, so I didn't have much hyper interest in the game anyway. When I say I want modern fighting games to put up the classics, make a Street Fighter game that actually needs tons of timing and practice and intelligent thought and reactionary style gameplay with footsies and counters and reversals and things that, like, have been absent from Street Fighter for a long time. Make that the focus instead of, oh, this is a dumbed down game that anyone could play it for like 2 weeks and learn all the basics of 3 characters, and now they can basically hang at least a mid to high level. That's bad to me. Like, I want a game that there's so many nuances to it, that every matchup is different, and every, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what Street Fighter is anymore. Street Fighter is straight up pattern play. When you go to play Street Fighter V and you fight a certain character, you know exactly what you're going to face that round. You know exactly what strategy that person's going to use. 9 times out of 10, they don't use any variety. It's the same shit over and over, because that's what the game is. It's pattern play, dumbed down, 50-50 guesses. It's not, it doesn't promote ingenuity. It doesn't promote variety. It's just the same shit every time you play it. That's boring to me. I play Street Fighter V. I'm incredibly fucking bored every time I play it, because I feel like I'm doing the same motions over and over. And I am. That's the game. The game is doing the same motions over and over. When I play Street Fighter 2, there's variety in the gameplay. When you pick a different character, it's a different matchup every time. Certain people will play certain characters differently. A hyper-aggressive Ryu versus a zoning Ryu. Totally different experience. And then you can get that when you play the classics. You don't get that with the modern games. And I hate that about them. I think that they're boring as shit. So that's my answer to that question is Fighting EX Layer was a game that was ruined by this new gimmicky thing they threw in. Samurai Showdown, I wasn't super interested in to begin with because I didn't like the original franchise. I didn't hear much about it, so I just skipped it. I want old school difficulty and game mechanics put back into modern games that make them competitively fun and viable again. That's my reasoning when I say that kind of stuff. Okay? Sinian Sausage Gaming, you're derailing the entire stream chat by spamming your fucking meme or whatever, so you can now get banned for now. And then if you ever want to come back, you can ask me to come back and behave and stop saying the same thing in stream chat over and over like an idiot. I got a $1 tip from Z Zingping saying, rest in peace, Papa John, gone too soon. If you mean the guy who used to be, you know, the spokesperson for Papa John's, the founder, I'm not aware that he passed away. He did an interview the other day where he sounded like a raving lunatic. But outside of that, I'm pretty sure he's still alive, unless something happened today that I didn't hear about. Beard Tendies, we subscribed to the channel for 17 months. Thank you, Beard Tendies. And Caliborman did 100-bit cheer. He says, fighting games are overrated. I miss the days of Mortal Kombat Armageddon. I never played those Mortal Kombat games on the PS2 era, so I couldn't really attest to anything there. Jory Seinfeld did 100-bit cheers. He says, having Thanksgiving, Phil, do you have a favorite Seinfeld episode? I think a lot of people say that the Marble Rye episode is fucking hilarious. I'll always remember the Marble Rye episode, so I'll probably just say that. Okay. Continuing on. The next question is from Alfred Aponte, and he asked the following. He says, Phil, I hope that you're a good man. I wanted to ask you, have you seen a surge in your audience after you did that interview with the Quartering earlier this year? I was one of those people that did not know much about your story until you did that. I wanted to say I love your interactive stream style. It's something that has meaning for us, your fans, rooting for your success as a content creator. Also, what's your opinion on the absurd growth of the SJW and woke culture on games and other types of media? Like, for example, attacking the Joker or the Mandalorian and the creation of gender-free controller for the Google Stadia. Oh my god. Alright, so this is a dual question. The first half of the question is, do I see that I got any kind of any kind of positive influence from doing that interview that I did earlier this year with the YouTuber named Quartering? Yes. Immediately following that, I'd say probably for about a month afterward, I constantly saw an influx of new viewers saying, wow, didn't know about Darkside Phil before, or I'd heard about him before, but I'd never seen anything that had humanized him. After watching the interview, he seems like a cool dude. I'll check out his streams. Now, admittedly, some people came and said, streams aren't for me. They never came back. But some people like you came in and said, oh, the stream's kind of interesting. This is fun. And they stayed. And that's really cool. Now, much like anything, popularity like that kind of little surge is temporary. That doesn't stay forever. After a couple of weeks, no one's watching that interview with the Quartering anymore. You know what I mean? So was there a small surge and a good positive feeling and vibe that came out of that? Absolutely. Is it lasting? Nah. It's gonna diminish and it's you know, what you get out of it over time. But I'm just happy that I did it. You know? And I'll be quite honest, there were a few other opportunities earlier in the year that had presented themselves to me that were similar things, and I declined them, and I think I did the right thing, because I actually feel that if I had done some things differently, that things could have turned out a lot more negatively for me this year. I think that I actually took the time to do something with a neutral party that made sense, rather than someone who maybe would have just been about kind of baiting me into making fun of me the whole time, and I feel that it worked out well. So yeah, now, a lot of people said, will you ever do stuff like that in the future? I'm not against doing actual, candid, realistic, fair interviews with people. I never was. I don't know why people would want to talk to me, though. Like, I feel like, how relevant am I, right? I'm 37 years old. Yes, I've done YouTube for 11 years. I've done live streaming full-time for 2.5 years. You want to talk to me about those topics? Great. But outside of that, you know, I think that there's a lot of people who are much bigger than me. Those are the people you'd want to talk to. Why do anyone want to talk to Darkside Phil? That's why it blows me away that anyone would even want to talk to me at all. Right? Like, I don't see myself as like a important figure or an e-celebrity or any of that shit. I never have. So I don't understand why anyone would even care about that. You know, so it is, you know, it is what it is. But I do feel that the positive stuff came out of it, and it was a good thing for me to do, and I'm glad. I think it worked out the best case scenario. Seriously, I think like it was like the best of scenarios of what I could have done this year. I did the right thing. Like I said, there was actually one thing that earlier this year I was thinking about doing, and I actually decided against it, and I think it was a really good choice. Especially based on the things that happened afterward, I definitely think it was the right choice to make. Okay. Now your second half of your question, what do I think about the growth of SJW and woke culture and all that? Listen, culture changes over time, right? It's like I just said, in the 90s, it was commonplace to include overly amounts of gore, swearing, and sexual content in video games to get that shock factor, to get teenagers to run out and buy said games. Now, not to say that stuff doesn't still exist in video games. It does, but to a much lesser extent than it used to. I think what's happened is our culture has evolved and changed now that in general it's not widely accepted to have that gratuitous stuff in games anymore. People are looking more for an artistic experience when they're playing a video game, right? Now, of course, much like anything, you could go completely to the extreme and then it ruins it. It's all about, what you say about these, it's all about moderation, right? It is. If you want to have more artistic value and have a game that's appealing more to a wider audience than, say, a teen male demographic, you need to kind of factor out crappy stuff that maybe is kind of overblown and done for basically cheap buys, I guess is what you could say. At the same time, if you go all the way to the extreme the other direction, you're going to completely isolate an audience. You see what I mean? There has to be a balance somewhere. There has to be a balance found somewhere. All right? So, you know, you're bringing up some examples. You're saying attacking the Joker movie, the Mandalorian series, and the creation of gender-free controller for the Google Stadia. First of all, the attacks on the Joker were just that, I guess, the movie sensationalizes and even glamorizes a killer. Okay? But we've had movies about this before, and last time I noticed, we didn't have supervillains running around, you know, doing this stuff in real life. It's really more about reality of, well, let's explain to people when you go to see a movie, it's fantasy. It's meant to be fantasy. All right? It's not fucking reality, and don't make it a reality, right? Or else, last time I saw Transformers, I didn't see someone making giant killer robots either. You see what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. At the same time, right, if they had made a movie where there's a monstrous, brutal, disgusting, vile killer, and he's made out to be a hero, that's different, you see? And that's not what the Joker movie was about. The Mandalorian, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know how Mandalorian was criticized, so I can't talk to that. The creation of a gender-free controller for Google Stadia. A gender-free controller. How is this gendered exactly, this controller? Like, what about this controller that I'm looking at is gendered? It's a device to control a console that has no gender. There's no such thing as a gender-free controller. It's just nonsense. So what I would say, the gender-free controller is nonsense. It's PR spin to make people who are all about the extreme think that it's something that it's not. There's no such thing as a gender-free controller because game consoles don't have gender. Stupidity is what that is, okay? Shout out to Zebra, who resubscribed to the channel for 35 months in a row. Bottle crunch, everyone. Look out. I'll try to negate the loudness. Thank you, Zebra, for 35 months of support. Almost to 3 years, man. Awesome. And Fluffy Cows for You tipped me $5. Says, what are 2 ways you could positively improve yourself in the new year? Good Lord. See, I love when people ask me questions like that, but I don't think that's a question for me, right? That's not a question for me, really. That's a question for my audience. Like, how do you think that I myself as a content creator can improve next year, right? By the way, my keyboard has failed. I'm trying to get a battery out. I just cut my fingernails. Possible to get the damn thing out. There we go. I would say this year, what I've done is I became a lot more of a laid-back guy. I stopped getting all uptight and raging about every little thing that happened. This year, although admittedly there have been times when things kind of happened that I needed your help, it wasn't always about the sky is falling or anything like that. And a lot of times that meant kind of hiding things from you guys in the background, but at the same time, I think that actually helped a lot. When you came in to tune into my streams outside of the early plug segment that I do, you never really heard me talk that much about money or anything like that. It was more about, let's just hang out and play a game and have fun together, right? So that was one of the things I did this year. I don't know. What do you guys think I could improve in the next year? And by the way, saying generic things like, oh, no pre-streams and stuff like that is just stupidity. That's not a suggestion. That's a demand for something that's not going to happen because it's a part of my streams that has a purpose and a lot of people like it, all right? But I'm sure people would have different variations of suggestions. Some people like green screen. Yeah, here we go again. The same tired things that we know are not going to improve my content. But yeah, I see Fluffy Cows for You. I wish I could answer those kind of questions, but in general, that's something that you turn to an audience to really answer, right? So, I'd be interested to see what people would say long term. Now, here we go. The same tired meme. Don't always blame the game. I don't always blame the game. That's a tired meme. That's Phil of 5 to 10 years ago. That's not Phil of today. So, all right, one more question, and then we're gonna take a break. Okay, one more question for this part. And this question is from Richie7, and he says, lately it's been very difficult for me to make it to stream, so I've been watching some of your older playthroughs. Correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you currently do a lot less improv comedy than you used to do back then. Not just non-PC material, but I mean just general comedic material. Was this change deliberate or just a natural evolution over time going from YouTube to streaming? How do you deal with adversity, stress, and negative issues impacting you? Furthermore, how do you come to a stream and perform without letting it show that you're dealing with stress behind the scenes? Any tips on dealing with difficulties, staying positive, and not letting it affect your work? Two completely different questions. His first question is, my commentary style has changed. Why did it change? Okay? He's right. Back when I used to be a full-time YouTuber and I did not focus at all on stream interactions, I felt like it was me playing a game in an isolated room. And it was my job to make watching that gameplay through fun at all times. So that means when there were cutscenes, if the cutscene wasn't super interesting, I had to talk over it to make jokes. If there was gameplay and the gameplay wasn't super interesting, I had to make jokes about it. When sometimes I would have to overly rage or overly complain or overly be over the top with something to try to fill dead air, because otherwise, what the hell else was I doing playing a game, right? In particular, I would say games with a lot of open world exploration, games that were RPGs, etc. Those games needed a lot more of that kind of stuff. And admittedly, over the top stuff was something that I did a lot back then. Again, over the top swearing, over the top sexual humor, over the top, gender humor, stuff like that. I did it all the time to bring in an audience. When I became a full-time streamer almost 3 years ago now, things changed. I kind of sat back and said, I want to know, what is it that you guys want from me? And what I got from my audience was, the stuff that you were doing was great back then. It's outdated. That's outdated commentary. We want the real Phil. We want to be able to sit down with you and hear your honest opinions on what you're doing, but just hang out with us, have fun, be chill, have fun conversations, and the fun and entertainment factor will come naturally. It's not about having to be the guy who's always making the over-the-top joke and interrupting and ruining a cutscene with stupid commentary. It's more about enjoying the overall gameplay experience. And what I've noticed in recent years is, I don't commentate much over cutscenes anymore. When we're doing open world segments of games, we'll talk and interact more about other stuff that's not even related to the game in a lot of cases, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be 100% focus on the game anymore, because it's not about that. The modern audiences want to see a different kind of content and a different kind of interaction. And don't get me wrong, that was hard for me to adjust. It was. I was set in my ways for the longest time. From 2008 all the way through 2017. 9 years. I had done the same kind of content. And now I had to completely kind of adjusting everything, to make it different for you guys. You told me outright, this is what we want, not the old. The old Phil was fun for that time period, but you have to evolve and change with the times. And I feel that over the time that I did this, I've become a better person, a more mature person, and the content that I put out there is more meaningful today than it ever was back then. Yeah, back then you got a lot of laughs, but also there was a lot of cringe, a lot of shock factor stuff that's kind of like, you watch it today, you're like, oh man, kind of lame that Phil did that stuff. Now, you can come to any stream and kind of relax and have a good time with me and have fun interactions and just have an entertaining, fun, chill time and feel like you got something more meaningful out of it than just a cheap laugh. It doesn't say, the laughs still come. The laughs still come. But it's not about always pushing that laugh narrative. You see what I mean? So I do feel that today's stuff is much better, and that's the feedback I'm getting. Even though, it's funny, do I get the crazy amount of over-the-top insane views I used to get anywhere? No. But people tell me now that the people who are here every day get more out of it than they ever did back then. And that's a cool thing, okay? Now, the other half of your question, how do you deal with adversity, stress, and negative issues impacting you? And how do you stream and perform without letting it show that you're dealing with stress behind the scenes? Any tips on dealing with difficult times and staying positive and not letting it affect your work? Yeah, I mean, you guys only know a fraction of the stuff that goes on with me behind the scenes that's negative. Just being honest with you. If there's something that I really need help with or whatever, and I have to tell you guys about it, I do. But in general, you guys don't have an idea of the stuff that I'm going through behind the scenes on a daily basis. There's some messed up stuff that's happened these past couple of years, and things that are private that I can't tell you. And I know that sucks for someone who used to be 100% transparent with you. The fact that I can't be transparent anymore, it kills me. It kills me that I couldn't tell you guys that not only was I visiting my parents earlier this year, but that I was going to get married. I would have loved to share that experience with all of you and been upfront and honest with you. And what would have happened is I would have went to Connecticut and we probably would have got swatted, pranked, and the entire thing would have been ruined and my family would have been put at risk. So I couldn't do it, It sucks that I that's the life I have now. But at the same time, I understand why it has to be like that for my own safety and my family's safety, okay? Right now, I could tell you guys a few things that are going on behind the scenes, matter of factly, that would open your eyes and you'd be like, oh shit, that's what's going on? That kind of makes sense now. At the same time, if I told you guys that stuff, there would actively be people who would go after me and try to hurt me because I revealed that information. So I can't. It sucks. And that's what I mean. Like, there are days when some shitty stuff is going down behind the scenes and I come to stream and it really, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, man, yeah, I really hope that we have a good fun stream today to get my mind off this shit, because I have to. I can't sit here and just be in a gloomy bad mood because there's other bad stuff going on behind the scenes that I can't tell you about, People are coming to my streams to get positivity and get fun interactions out of it. They're not coming to hear about my doom and gloom shit going on behind the scenes. So I have to do my best to be that motivational person for all of you. And it's tough, as someone who has suffered from depression in the past and has feelings come back. Some days there's good reason for it, and other days it'll just come back for no fucking reason, It's tough. It's really tough on a day when I want to feel like I'm making a positive difference, and then you get people who come and just hammer in negativity to you on a stream all day long. People who don't understand that what they're doing actively is fucking with your psyche. It's tough. It's tough. It really is, you know. It's tough to me as someone who I want to do good things, and I can't always do the good things that I want to do because of the life situation I'm in. It's rough, and it makes me feel bad. It makes me feel down, and I have to not portray that on the streams. I have to have the thickest skin of titanium and not let shit get to me. And it's funny because the moments when I might let something come through, all right, the moments that I might let something come through, all of a sudden now, look at Phil. He's supposed to have thick skin, but instead, look at what he actually is a weakling, and you look what he did. He raged, or it's fucked up. It's like the double-edged sword. If I don't show emotion, I don't tell you anything, people are angry that I don't share stuff. Then when I share stuff, people are angry that I'm like, oh, aren't you supposed to be the role model for everyone and the content creator who doesn't show that kind of personal stuff? Why are you bothering us with that? We're coming to your streams for a good time. See? So either way, it's kind of like damned if you do and damned if you don't. What do you really do? I don't know. I don't think there's a definitive answer to that, but I just do my best at this point. If I want to share personal stuff with you guys, I do my best to share the fun stuff and not to let the negative stuff come through, because there's tons of negative stuff I could tell you guys about, and I don't think it would do anyone any good, you know, to know that stuff. I just try to stay fun and positive on the streams, and I feel that if I stay fun and positive, things in general will work out. And even though every once in a while there is something that happens that, man, I really need to raise funds in a short period of time out of nowhere, and it sucks I have to do this and kind of put this burden on my viewers, but I hope things work out. And then things work out, and I'm so grateful. I'm so happy. I'm like, damn, now we can go on and have fun streams again and not have to have this burden hanging on my fucking head. And that's awesome, you know? So thank you for that. But yeah, like, to answer your question, Richie, it's not easy. It's not easy some days to come to stream with negative stuff going on behind the scenes and knowing very well that things may not be able to still be how they are right now forever. You know, I know that I have to make life changes and things. I mean, by the way, I'm making life changes and things. Again, it's things I can't share with you guys that are rough and are different and are very stressful to make ends meet and to make things so that they're not constant problems in my life. And I can't always tell you guys about it, and I have to come here and swallow it. Just swallow it and keep it down. And, you know, people ask me questions that if I answered honestly, again, your eyes will be like, whoa, but then my private information got out there and now people can hurt me. So it's tough. It's very tough. But at the same time, it's a kind of a necessary thing. I think that anyone who does this full time has to have this separation of personal and public, because you can't have both. I've been there, done that, where my entire life was 100% transparent to all of you, and we saw some of the fucked up stuff that happened because of it. So now that my life is separated from that, I've a much better life experience, really, having this private life that's separate from what I share with you guys on a daily basis. So it's tough, but I find a way to do it. Well, thank you, Propane Key, for $1 tip. He says, I want to say you're not a bad guy. I appreciate that very much. All right, guys, what we're going to do is take a break. If you're watching on stream, it'll be like a 10, 15-minute break. If you're watching on YouTube, it's just going to be a separate part coming up. So let's take a short break. When I come back, we got many more questions to answer, both from the forums and from Twitter. And there will be a segment where I also interact with all of you guys here on the stream chat as well. Okay, so thanks so much for Ask the King Thanksgiving 2019 Part 1. I'll be back with more after the break. Thanks, and see you in a few.